Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Jay, and this is Homeschool Yo Kids podcast. Before we get started, big shout out to a couple of our sponsors who are definitely mission to ensure that you do not take this homeschooling journey on your own. So, big shout out to Base Camp as well as Classical Conversations. Classical Conversations is the nationwide curriculum provider, but they also provide support all around the country. So you could tap into their resources. And Basecamp is a brand new app that is mission to ensure that you do not do this by yourself. It's like a Zillow, but for homeschoolers. You can find homeschooling families near to you, and you can find like resources near you. It's pretty cool. So check them out also. And today we have with us Tiwon. Tiwon, introduce yourself.
Good morning. Good morning, Jay. My name is Tiwon Sims. I'm an associate with Burst Into Books, which is an organization that focuses on early literacy in Chicago. And it was an honor to meet you and your daughters when you came to the city. So I'm just here to kind of follow up with the interview.
Indeed. How did you get connected with Burst Into Books?
So the founder, Jarima Gorham, I've known her for a number of years now, and just the initiative and what she purposed in right now, it's amazing. And just to be a part of it also. She started it for her child, James, because there's no book clubs in the far south side of Chicago. So she started a book club, and the book club sort of ballooned into the Burst Into Books, what Burst Into Books is now. Huh? And my role is media. So I'm just like, I do the media, the content at times for events when we're at events. So I'm there shooting live. I'm there kind of participating as a vendor if needed, like a maverick with the team. So,
Indeed you are. And I appreciated our conversation while we were there. You are heavily into education in general because you have two of your own, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this, what you got behind you, Dad, supporting dads.
So my purpose for joining it is because I think that fathers do need support. Especially when you're dealing with something. And as an American and a Black American, I think that we need a bulk of support because of the narrative that's been written behind fatherhood in Black America. And so when I seen this, I instantly I gravitated to it. So it's just a host of men from different parts of the states, countries, and now they've chosen to come alongside each other just to kind of support each other, uplift each other and whatnot. And for me, it's because in the last 5 years, I've noted that some of the systems that we choose to set ourselves up under, whether it be the educational or work or whatever it is, some of these systems are aligned against our values. They're aligned against the purpose in our lives. And that's what's been going on in my life as a father. I've had the courts purpose themselves against me. I've had the school Board of Education purpose itself against me. And it kind of puts me at a crossroad and trusting the education system right now. I know that that's a great topic right now with the dissolution of the Board of Education or the Department of Education happening right before us. But I just think that we've given so much to that area, but we've hardly gotten anything back as a payout, especially in our children, education wise. So, to have dads supporting dads, to have other gentlemen or other men that are dealing with the same thing where they wrestling, they find themselves in family court, trying to get a purchase in the life of their children, but are having the courts against them, to having the spouse or the significant other or the co-parent against them, it's heavy. So I think that the supporting this while supporting each other, or it works out. Let's just say that. Let's just say that it works out.
Indeed, indeed. I actually just saw a post the other day that was like, Black man, when you walking past another black man, don't be mean mugging them. Like, say what's up, ask them how they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
ask them if they need help, things of that nature. So I'm loving to see that because that's the narrative that isn't, being pushed enough for my liking. But
Facts.
especially because you're in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about it because Chicago is on the news for everything but good.
And that's the truth. And they highlighting the negatives. So
Mhm.
I could imagine what people in different states think about Chicagoans or what's happening really in Chicago. But it's not happening all around Chicago. It's a designated areas. And these designated areas is not happening because of the people in those areas. And that's the narrative that the media is pushing. That's the narrative that's always being pushed in the media, but it's not. Um,
For a city to be nicknamed Chirac.
Chirac, and that killed me right there. Like I haven't even watched that movie because of that.
I don't think I've
Uh,
seen it either, but I just know that that's a nickname.
because I can't. I'm trying to figure out what a rack part, what a war part at, what a because in war it's like you have an agreed. We agree to be opponents. So what does the war come in? When did everybody else agree that they were going to be a part of this so-called Chirac mess? But it's the narrative that they need to push so they can continue the narrative that there's this gang disruption in Chicago, that there's this grave public safety disruption in Chicago when it's not. They're a band of people, they're groups, these so-called gangs, but they're not gangs, not structured gangs, not actual gangs. These are small factions of people who are being utilized either by the criminals that masquerade as police officers, that are being utilized by these um, psychotic politicians who we have governing the city right now. And it's crippling our city right now. It's crippling us, but even worse is the narrative that's being pushed. And within that narrative, it allows for things to happen. I'm not sure if you've heard about the 18 individuals that were shot in the city of the mass shooting. So
No.
that was a mass shooting July 2nd. It was in River North. And if you go in
This year?
this year, this
Oh
just
wow.
happened. This just
Okay.
happened. On July 2nd. This was a mass shooting involving mainly Black American women.
Hmm.
18 people shot, four of them dead. It was supposedly connected to a young rapper named Mellow Bucks. She's a female rapper here in Chicago, and some whatever it is. I won't even put that
Oh,
narrative
is
out
she
there.
had like a release party or something? An
Yes,
album
this
release
is
party?
yes,
I saw it
yes.
on World Star. I ain't click on it, but I saw the title.
And but see, that's the whole thing, and that's another topic. The world stars, these all these people that paint these narratives in the way that the media wants to paint it, in the way that society has kind of etched it out as Chirac and this place where this is a possibility, this place where this can happen, where somebody ride up and shoot all women up. The victims, those were mainly women, the bulk of them. So imagine 18 people in the streets, and just for an album release party for a female rap artist. And they said she was rapping like this, she was doing this. That's what they do. That's part of rap. That's part of the Jenna Squad. This what draws people in. This what drives it. So I'm gonna talk my stuff. I'm gonna be talking my stuff. I'm not rapping about this and that. I'm talking my stuff. I'm rapping about how jazzy I am. I'm rapping about how tight my team is over yours. I'm gonna talk my crap, you know. But at the same time, they try to make it seem like it's because she was rapping and doing that. That 18 girls that somebody rolled up this. Imagine this. Now this is in the gang, because I'm from the streets. When we were young, we rolled through people's street, through their blocks. When we've been in blocks, we see a crowd of females. Ain't nobody finna wave no move at them, or ain't nobody finna pull a gun out the car and wave it at them or shoot at them. Not at all. We finna jump out. Hold up. What's up, lady? What y'all want? We trying to nab. Look, what y'all want? What y'all doing? What we at? Y'all know y'all ain't supposed to be over here. We know we ain't supposed. That's why we trying to do this real fast, and we gonna meet up tonight. No, these fools, they have a narrative, whereas these individuals just riding down the street or maybe got wind of what Mello was doing, enrolled into downtown Chicago. This is our business district. This is a business district. This is an affluent area. This is an area that's highly policed. They rolled right into this area and shot 18 people with the intention of taking all their lives. And this is the narrative that this can suddenly happen in Chicago. It's wrong.
Oh, very much so.
Whatever that was, it was intentional and it was targeted. And those girls didn't deserve that. But we have a mayor here in the city that when that press conference that he was having, there was a young news reporter in the crowd that screamed this out, which painted or framed the narrative. Oh, this came from a shooting. Mayor Johnson, what doesn't this stem from a shooting that took place in the far South Side? What you know about that was my thought instantly. But the mayor high-capped it by saying, he's like, oh, well, good question, Chris, or whatever the kid name was, Chris or something like that. Good question, but you know, you ahead of it before I am. What are you ahead of? What does Chris know about the far South Side? Other than reports, other than the scanner reports and all these things. What do you know about the far South Side? Nothing. But here it is, you paint this narrative now, which takes the thought away from investigating this matter. So 18 individuals, 18 Americans have been shot and no one has been taken into custody. No follow-ups in the news. We had someone from Syracuse, I think some woman from New York, get shot in the arm, and they put that in the news for about 3 to 6 months, 90 days. Every time there was some mention of a teen takeover or whatnot, there was the mention of this woman being shot. And she was a tourist. But we have 18 residents, 18 Chicagoans shot up in the street. It's been in the news. It was in the news probably July 2nd, July 3rd, 4th, and it was over with. So if we can get rescued from even the narrative of being a city known for murdering and shooting each other, and this is primarily in areas, and I'm gonna name some areas. These are communities: Roseland, Austin, Inglewood, East Rogers Park, and South Shore. These are primarily Black American communities. These are, you have some Latinx communities that can be like Humboldt Park and back of the yards, and other areas that could be named in it also, Pilsen. However, this is all manufactured and it's been going on for quite a while. And until Chicagoans and until Americans can get around each other and saying, hey, this is not the natural way in which we are taking care of each other, Black Americans especially in our communities, get back to protecting our communities where people ain't just coming in our communities and shooting them up so that they can push a narrative, then we're going to be under the gun of this, or unless the federal government come in and inspect our government, city government, and our law enforcement, because this is where these attacks are coming from. Because they're trying to push this political net, they're trying to push for political strength, and they're trying to push the narrative that, hey, we're a city under siege, but we're a city being placed under siege, is what it is.
And
And they
that's a pretty wild narrative to put out. I've been in Chicago 3 times. First time I went, I think I stayed almost a week. I'm not a news watcher, guys. I tell that all the time. I'm not big on news. I'm not big on politics. I'm big on living, and I go out and I live. And I went gone once by myself as an adult female, and ended up I was there for a conference downtown, and ended up staying extending for my birthday and stayed longer because it's so beautiful. Chicago's beautiful, first of all. Like in the fall, because my birthday is late September. So in the fall, so Chicago's beautiful. The changing of the colors, all that good stuff. Great temperature, great weather. Me and a friend who's from New York, we walked around, we celebrated, even met these barbers that we hung out with that night, and they took us out on the town and went to found my Johnny's, who's always gonna keep me bringing coming back because that food is delicious. But and I've come twice with my daughters. I always say I talk about y'all gas prices, if nothing else, but the violence was not in our face. The welcoming was there. Every time we've come, we've received love, support in what we're doing as far as our expos and everything. So, my narrative was always going to be that, like, hey, you gotta go. You gotta go to know, because like you said, the areas are everywhere. Like every state has those areas, every city has those areas that you may not want to go around there at this time because they doing whatever they're doing. But that's everywhere. I live in Phoenix. Same thing could be said for here. Same thing when I lived in Virginia, certain parts of Norfolk, certain parts of Portsmouth. You just don't go in. However, is the city the whole issue? No. But it's like, okay, how do we get to change that narrative? Because I will tell you, when I was in the barbershop talking to the guys and we were getting our eyebrows done, and the older guys in there were like, "Oh yeah, no, don't do this and don't do," like telling telling certain things, but they're also going off their narrative of however long ago they're thinking about. It's not that they still in the streets, they ain't doing that for, they're not doing that, they're older. So they're going back home and they're watching the news. And that's the thing. Like the people there are recycling what's going on in the news, not necessarily what, they've heard or been a part of or anything of that nature. So it's like the media definitely plays a heavy role in how people perceive different states and cities before even going there themselves.
Mhm. Mhm. And to segue kind of into the educational part, um, we had the Child Development and Education Committee come up just recent. And what was the speech about? What was the topic? It was kind of out of the way topic, but what it purposed in everybody else, what it brought out of everybody else, well, all the speakers, was the fact that there's a do not hire list for the school board. And this list is it, it, it harbors nothing but inequity in hiring. And I find it, for me, it was this. So it's a do not hire list, which blocks out Black educators, and more so than none. And when I was sitting there listening, I became more encouraged in what the president has done with the dissolution of the Department of Education. I sat there thinking, how is this possible? How is it even possible to block people who have trained themselves for a job, basically? So I went to school, I got this education, I got a master's, I got all of this to prep me for a job that I was going to be doing. But when I tried to apply for that job, automatically shut out this job. But it's not because I fit the criterion that says that I should be shut out the job. It's just simply because of this list. It allows for that. It's a it's a parameter that's been set up to allow for the inequity. And I was like, wow. And it's been happening since, I want to say, 2009. In 2009, there was a vote. That was something that was amended. I can't rightly remember, but there was something that was amended which sort of blocked this type of segregation. But in 2009, a judge struck that down. He struck this down. So now it allows, in a way, for this type of segregation and this type of inequity to happen. And I was like, and you had these educators, Black educators, standing up, women, and they were talking about how they had worked for 20 years and 30 years and were fired. And whenever they had, and one woman said that because of, and it seemed so wrong that her husband fell sick. And in the time that she took off to take care of her husband, they fired her. And it was
She
just
was
such
on the
a,
school board.
no, she was a teacher. She was
Oh,
a
she was a
teacher,
teacher.
and a very valuable teacher. When she talked about how the principal praised her for the work that she was doing and said that there was no one else that was doing this type of work. And so you're telling me that a valued educator, and I'm sure that there's some type of leave that they take, right? That they can take.
Yeah, I would think that it would fall under FMLA. I'm not sure.
And it's like, you fire her for what? So now she was a special education's teacher. She said that when they fired her, shortly after that, she would see her students in the street dealing with issues. And so what's the purpose, honestly? If you've hired someone and you know that this person has a rapport with these students, a history with these students, and actually this is who you would call the instructor, their primary instructor, and you fire this person, you take this person totally out of their lives. For what reason? It wasn't at her accord. She wants to be a teacher. She wants to continue her work. She wanted to continue her work. She knew that work was beneficial in her community. And you fired her to replace her with who? But not only her, there was another woman, a doctor, who said the same thing. And not only her, there was another young woman who stepped up and said the same thing. But I can imagine, because here recently there was a gentleman fired from 21 years. He was a youth coordinator, 21 years with a school, and you turn around and you just fire him from the program because y'all making budget cuts. How does that devastate the community, the children? So it's like,
Yeah, got to get back to the root of things because that's why I was going to bring, like you said, segueing into education. It's like we see all these things that are going on in the streets all over the nation as far as with our youth and just the path that they are taking and being distracted, um, from the things that they should be focused on or could be
mm-hmm,
focused on rather. But there, it's like, okay, well, where did we lose them? Like, cause some of them babies, like I've seen some things on World Star where it got little babies, like 10, 11, putting on the little, what's some poo shiesty mask and yeah, and doing, doing stuff and having pieces and everything.
mm-hmm,
um, it's like, okay, so where did we lose them? Like, because they're still babies. These are young adults. These aren't adults. These are babies. So
mm-hmm,
where did we lose them at? Because I always joke and but I'm serious about it. I feel like a lot of these young people who are out here doing these things to each other, they need a hug. They need love.
mm-hmm,
They need to be reminded that they are, someone that is purposeful and that they are needed in their community in other ways than what they're doing. And because you think about why kids join gangs, and that's that reason hasn't evolved much. Like it's always looking for community. They're looking for, okay, these my boys, these who gonna ride for me because maybe their parents aren't present, maybe their parents are working continuously and don't know
Mhm.
what they're doing. Whatever the case may be, there's always a reason. Like, and I don't feel like we get to the root of things enough. We're always just on the surface. Well, so and so shot this person, or this 15-year-old shot this boy. But it's like, okay, well, why? How did we get here? Like, I'm always wanting the root. Like, how do we get here? How do we fail these kids? And you're talking about them removing educators, educators that care about them, educators that are doing and making a difference. Um, that's a big thing.
Mhm. In 2013, they shut down 50 schools here in Chicago, primarily
50
in Black American
schools.
50, 50, Rahm Emanuel, primarily in Black American communities. And I believe that if we did a case study going back to 2013 to now, and you looked at the trend, the change, the drastic change, and the behavior of the children and escalation from certain situations and scenarios to how they are now, then you will see great. You will see. But now let's just go a little bit deeper. Like I said, let's go to the root of it. Who were the facilitators, the teachers in those schools? The value facilitators, the value teachers. Those you remember that teacher who everybody came to school to see. And that teacher had a rapport almost with every student on every grade level almost. Whether it be their parents, the teacher, you knew that person. That person was even part of the neighborhood. So when that person come through the neighborhood, automatically, if it was something going down, Tina and Tasha was up there arguing. They finna bust each other head open. Soon as he walked past or she walked past, like, what y'all doing? Tina and Tasha instantly get the, and then they instantly right there because they've been mediating. They know that they know the what's the underlying issues. They able to address because I have a personal rapport with Tina and Tosh.
Mhm.
I was just talking to Tina this morning, tell her to not bust Tasha head, because y'all kids be playing together every day. And what is y'all arguing over this mess for anyway? But they don't have that personal. So now all of that was taken away. And they blame, oh, this is that. And it's the continuousness of trying to blame kids or blame the fact on the constituents or the people who have no real control over what decisions are made if it's coming from the government level. You shut down 50 schools.
That's crazy because the kids, I'm sure, didn't go anywhere as far as the numbers going down. It's like, okay, well, you shut down 50 schools. That means you still got to find bodies for all those kids places for all those kids that were in those 50 schools, meaning that now the schools that are still present have to be overpopulated, have to be stretched to the max as far as class sizes go. And
Mm-hmm.
so that depletes a lot because it's hard to build personal relationship. I had 100, when I taught 12, my last year teaching, I had 147 students. That's 147 lives, that's 147 families, households, everything on, for one person to keep up with, to be involved with, to build relationship with. That's a lot.
How does that
And
work?
I mean, made it do what it do. I was one of those check-in teachers. I was with the community, and I feel like that's important too. I feel like just as they say police officers should live in the community that they patrol, I feel teachers should live in the communities that they teach in because it's so important. You have to see. I shared this before. When I taught in Virginia Beach, I grew up in Virginia Beach, totally different than Norfolk. I taught in Norfolk.
Mm-hmm.
But before I started teaching in Norfolk, I still lived in Virginia Beach. And my students used to always talk about, oh, Miss Carter, they be shooting every night. They always shooting out here, da da da, all this stuff. And I'm just like, they ain't shooting like that. Like, they ain't shooting like that. Man, I moved to Norfolk. They was shooting like that every night. I was like, wait a minute. Like, no, they really doing this. And then it's like, the conversations keep happening. Then the kids telling me seventh grade, and my seventh graders telling me how police interaction was a norm for them, being pulled over or stopped by the police and having them frisk them. That was a norm for them. And I was just like, what? Like I was just getting appalled by things left and right. Seeing them put seventh and sixth graders in handcuffs after a fight. I'm like, wait, what? Like we normalizing? Like what is this? Like it's a lot to actually be present in the community as opposed to looking from the outside in because you don't really know what's going on unless you are there. And then
Mhm.
that helps you to be able to provide the support that's needed because you don't want to get this whole little sugar cookie cut support over here. And that's not what
Right.
they need. When they talking about their lights being cut off or they didn't eat this morning or, things of that nature. And you thinking that, oh, they just need a snack or a sticker or like whatever it is. They need real support. And our kids are going through a lot of things, way more than when I was in the classroom now, because of the heavy presence of social media, because of the heavy presence of just a whole bunch of outside noise and trending topics and trending things that keep them distracted from them.
And that's the truth. It's and that's the thing. Like it's the demonizing and the criminalizing of these kids or the situation. I'm not gonna say the kids. It's so many ways. Like I'm this etymology, this wording, the way people use words, and how they derive these maddening narratives from. It's as if they just take the fact that the compassion, empathy, whatever it is, they just push all that to the side so they can assess it from whatever viewpoint, and it's disgusting. Just
Indeed.
to say that these kids are the issue or the problem, like you said, this drive in social media, all these new nuances that have invaded their lives, that's altering their lives and change the trajectory of their lives. But to say that it's their issue or their fault, I so so when I was young, I was put in jail. I was part of that crime bill, the '96 crime bill. To be a 45-year-old man with the knowledge and understanding, and not to say that I was an angel, my mom, but it's the understanding just how I was caught up in it. Like my mom, she started smoking. She started getting high off crack. We were so susceptible to everything that bill was about. The fact that she started getting high, we in the streets. I had to think about. I just said this because my birthday just passed on the 24th of July.
Oh, happy
I,
birthday.
thank you. I was just sitting there, just kind of like reflecting. And I was like, we raised ourselves as kids. We raised ourselves. We came up in an era which purposed us to raise ourselves. But right now, we don't have to do that. Right now, we got past that part. We got past the '96 crime bill. We survived that as a nation of people. Something that was set up in such a detrimental way to destroy, to drag down, to bring down. We have survived another moment in Black America. And it wasn't like gradual. No, it's still people fighting us in this so-called drug war. But it's not a drug war, they found out. It was just a ploy to destroy a nation of people and justify it.
Yes, if you haven't watched 13th on Netflix, you should watch that. I'm just putting that out there to the listeners. If you haven't watched 13th, watch that. And that would give you a better understanding of the war on drugs or the not so much of a war on drugs, but the policing on Black
Say
people.
that. Say that.
Yeah.
They took me off the streets, charged me with manufacturing and delivering, or manufacture to deliver, or a delivery of a controlled substance manufactured to deliver. which made me an automatic transfer, which made me a Class X felon. At
How old were
16,
you?
I was
Oh,
14,
six,
I think. I think
14.
14, 14, if that. My brother had just died, so I was 15, maybe 14, 15. But I was taken off the streets, charged, charged as an adult, and all these different things. But I had to think about it. How was this possible? It was possible through what was manufactured before me. My mom being high, the family kind of going away from each other. Think about it. In the 90s, Black Americans started going away from each other as a family. It didn't take the pandemic thing. The
Hmm.
pandemic just kind of exacerbated that issue more and more into a worse issue, because now we just kind of don't trust each other, or we haven't been trusting each other. I don't want to generalize it, but I want to say that that's been kind of the place that we've been set up in mentally.
What do you think you needed as that 14, 15-year-old at that time?
Oh, community. What we lack now, and which I'm definitely going to be pushing for community. We need advocacy, um, litigation. We need litigators. We need lawyers. We need lawyers. We need litigators, actual lawyers that work for us and want to work for us, not these so-called organizations that have been set up for hundreds of years, because we know now that those organizations has been infiltrated. Those organizations do not stand for what they once stood for. NAACP, all these great organizations that's supposed to be championing these issues that's happening in Americans. No, they don't. You can hardly get legal, and that's all it takes is litigation. It's some litigators down there at those juvenile facilities, litigators over there at those criminal courts, looking into these so-called cases that these kids are catching because they not. I didn't have litigation. If I had a litigator, I wouldn't have not. It would have changed the whole trajectory of my life. Thank you.
Mm.
It would have changed the trajectory of my life. I don't think that I would have stayed in jail a year or better waiting for something to happen. I don't think that I would have been sent or sentenced.
Yeah,
And
because you
that's
were tried as an adult at 14, 15, which I think is just wild that that takes place, especially for nonviolent crime. But I'm a watcher of interrogations. Like I watch interrogations, I watch court cases. I have a master's in legal studies, so I have a little infatuation with the law in general of how it's represented and put out there. And I think that's what most of these young men be missing is, like you said, a lawyer on their side that's really on their side and that's going to help them. But it also goes back to, okay, what were they missing before they got there? Like, as far as what did they need? And you said it first, community. They needed people to care. They needed people to show that they care. And we still working on that. We still working on that because the media tells us to chalk some of these kids up as lost causes, or they chalk them up and send them away for the rest of their life at 17, 16, 15 years old. And they've already said, oh yeah, no, you can't, there's nothing we could do with you. You got to go away for life. I think that's so heavy. And that, that's a lot.
I,
That's a lot.
I was looking at 9 to 45 years as a imagine that 9 to 45 years, and I
And
was
that's
like,
so
wow,
broad too. 9 to 45. That's wild.
Class X, called a Class X offender, because of the offense was within 1,000 or 100 feet or 1,000 feet of a school. They charged it as a Class X offender, and a
Um,
lot of juveniles. I was in jail with a lot of people charged as they had actual county decks, they called them, in the juvenile facility, and that's where they put us. So mind you, if you were 14 to 17, you was on these dorms. charged as an adult. And so this, I feel like right now, what's happening in Chicago with the education system, the fact that our kids don't read. Uh, uh, let me wait. Let me not get ahead. The reason I feel this way, let me explain, is because in 2024, I found out that Pedro Martinez, which was our previous school CEO for CPS, and his downstate team, they invested basically $1 billion into the industrial prison complex. They're gonna rebuild two prisons out here in southern Illinois.
Make bigger.
No, no, these they're gonna rebuild them because these were it was Joliet was one of our prisons, and then we had another prison that shut down. They're gonna rebuild these prisons.
Oh, then they were not open anymore.
No, they were, but they got shut down. One up, Joliet is now the Bird House was shut down. NFC, so because they had a whole nother part of the prison built, a brand new state of the art part of the prison built, they shut those older parts down. So now they plan on building, and which I know they have been building these prisons to reopen them.
And they're
But
putting a
inside of that,
billion dollars into it after
$1 billion.
shutting down 50 schools. And you're familiar with the school to prison pipeline, right?
Yes, I was just talking about that. I'm gonna send you. So what I spoke about at the committee was this. I spoke about that issue that it's a rule of thumb that from third grade to prison, and this is the pipeline that's been set up, and it's been. And I was part of this. You have to understand that I now understand that this is an initiative. What I heard in that committee meeting, and what and this was brought up by Alderman, a William Hall. His name is William Hall. Last year he brought this up. He brought this to our attention that this is happening. And I was disgusted. I really almost, I think I had a mental breakdown at that point, right then and there, because I began to scream at them. Y'all knew about this. This was intentional. Y'all intend on sending our kids to prisons. But it was more so an emotional pour out for the child that I was and that I was sent to a prison, that I was treated in such a way, disregarded in such a way. All my potential, everything that I was as a child in those moments was just pushed. It was of no value to these people. The only value that I held was to be locked away, put in the jail, used as part of this whatever system, this government, whatever this is. And this can't happen on my watch. Not y'all don't get to do it to some kid on my watch. I'm 45. I'm aware. I've educated myself on some things. I'm sure that I can purpose myself in speaking towards. I can purpose myself in energy. I know that this is our time. Like this is our time as parents, educators, facilitators, adults, humans, to stand up and step in and say enough is enough. Y'all don't get to just write the narratives for our children. Y'all don't get to just purpose their futures so that y'all can have something to talk about. Or sort of, no, enough is enough. And if we aren't courageous enough to do that, then we forfeit. We forfeit their futures. It's not about us. In a lot of ways, it is about us, but in more ways than none, it's not about us. It's about those two girls who I met, your daughters. It's about my boys. It's about a host of other young adults, children, infants that have a future ahead of them. And so we now have to pave that way, get back out there and pave that way. I think we forgot that we have been paid. This is our course, this is our purpose. So
Indeed. Now, there's a lot of people doing the work. I always want to highlight that because I've talked to over 100 people on my platform alone that are doing the work, that are making sure that families are supported, that kids are getting the resources that they need, and that change is being, done. Because you definitely got to be the change, and that's always the thing. It's like whatever you feel that you should be doing, whatever is driving you, whatever you feel calling your name, listen to it, and act on it, because you are that piece. You're that piece to that puzzle. And we're all important. We all are a purpose for something. And it's like we see the problem, so we have to be a part of the solutions. I wouldn't be doing what I am doing if I had not been in the education system and seen firsthand what the problems were.
Mhm.
And if I would have walked away and ignored it, then I would have became a part of the problem. Or if I would have continued in the system and ignoring it, I would have just been a part of the problem. So it's like we have to decide to be the solution and really, really move in that regard, of understanding. Like you said, it's about the kids. You want it to be better for them. We understand what we were lacking, so it's like it's up to us to break that cycle and to provide what it is that they need. Um, and Black men, young Black men need to see other Black men. They have to see that. It doesn't matter who else steps in, I promise. They have to see someone who looks like them, who's walked their walk even, but has, grown and changed and decided to do different. They have to hear that narrative. They have to hear that side, because they're seeing the same thing that everyone else that's looking out from the inside out, which is a bunch of portrayal of violence, money, game, like, just the narrative, like it's like a starter pack. It's like a
Yep.
starter pack that kid. It's like, oh, okay, well, to be this, you need to have this, and this. All right, go do it. And then that's that. Um, so I appreciate you. I appreciate you caring enough. I appreciate, because you were very vocal when we were talking. And y'all were handing out, let's not talk about what y'all be out here doing in this community, handing out free books to the kids, like combating that literacy rate. That's why Burst Into Books is that dope, because we need more bookstores. We need more Black bookstores. Um, because our kids, they need to find them in these pages. That's why it's so hard for them to read, because it's like, what are you asking me to read? And I'm an avid reader. And I tell you, when I was in school, I was disturbed by what I was being asked to read, because it's like, what is this? Like, I don't want, I'm gonna read it. Yes, a little bit, until I learned about Cliff Notes, and then I started reading Cliff Notes. But they have to be able to relate to it. Our kids need us. Our kids need us.
Say that. Say
They
that.
they definitely need us. I got two more questions before I let you go. One, with all that you do and understand and are purpose for, how do you self-care and make sure you stay on that good side of the mental game? Because you say you had a
Ooh,
little mental
ooh,
breakdown when you was talking on this panel, or on,
ooh.
at this committee
Um,
meeting. So how do you make sure that you stay centered?
um, can I be? I'm gonna be totally transparent.
Please.
So because I don't want it to be received as a negative, and everybody putting a negative around it. Holistic. I'm very holistic in a lot of the ways that I go about things. I've not changed what I've learned and what balances me. Um, did, did it take a lot of trial and error? It did. Um, I dealt with great depression, and even now I deal with depression because of the things that I'm going through. However, I'm able to recognize it, and when I'm able to recognize them, I'm able to take the proper measures. Whereas I used to isolate, now I'm more vocal. Whereas I used to kind of sit with my problems and my concerns, I share them. And I use social media as a venting tool, but also as a tool, as a sounding board, um, and just so that I could speak and just allow for all those things to come out of me, and for other people's to voice things back if they choose to. Um, Marijuana, marijuana had,
Please.
and that's the part what people, because people assume, oh, you just getting hot. when I was younger, I just got high. When I was younger, I smoked reefer for recreation. I realized now it's more of a holistic thing. It's more of a anxiety. It is a actual medicine for dealing with certain things. Is it something that I promote or want to promote to youth, or so that that's one of the reasons I don't speak on it a lot, because it's being promoted to our youth in other forms now. It's a lot of different things. They're coming through every channel, and everything that works, they turn it into a negative. But it is turning into a negative because now all of these different chemicals are being added. It's so weird now. But I utilize it in a sense to as an anxiety tool. But now I'm going to go away from it because I realize that they're using this as a window to come in. So I have to go to something else, physical workout. Our PT, that's a great part of eating. It's three parts: the spiritual, the physical, and the mental. And I think that once you align those three and find a way to align them that works for you. Everybody else has a concept of how to pull these things together, but it has to come naturally. It has to be a way that you receive, not the world, not the people around you, not what Jody told you or Julia or Jonathan them told you works for them, but to align these three in you the way that works for you. I'm heavy in the Word of God, reading, but physical workout for me is a place of meditation. So I utilize that also. Have I been in the last 40 days? No, because I was dealing with a depression. But I had to recognize that. I had to be able to sit in that and work through it. Like I said, me having that breakdown in the council was due to a culmination of things and things that I'm dealing with. However, I've not allowed for these things to overcome me because I recognize that I'm dealing with them. I have not allowed for the Great Depression to envelop me because I know that I'm dealing with it. And so being able to recognize that is adding to the quality of my health mentally, let's say that, and how I go about exercising it out now. Does it align with the way a lot of people say you should? I'm not sure, but it works for me. It is what works for me. My spirituality before me, not having that hindered by trying to look and assess what other people was working for them. My relationship with the Lord is my relationship. Other people might question you, yo, Christian, you ain't I don't know what people be thinking, but I don't let that get in my head. Physically working out, and the mental part is sitting with those thoughts, going over those thoughts, finding, not assessing the wrong, but ultimately just searching the solution. Searching the solution. We know, I know how I got here. I know what a wrong was. Now I simply search the solution. And at the end of that, it works out. So that's what's been working out for me in my self-help. That much I can say.
Nice. Thank you for sharing, because I know it speaks to a lot of other men out here who are struggling with the same thing. And that depression has become a very, very hot button topic. Mental health in general has become a very, very hot button topic. And I'm glad in a sense that it has. But I hope that, like you said, as far as the weaponizing, because, with everything, they want to give you a prescription to numb or to put a Band-Aid on it, but not necessarily help and assist and actually solve what it is that you're going through. So thank you for sharing that, sir. Great combination. And if our listeners didn't hear anything else, what is 3 things you want them to leave this conversation with?
That it's an urgency that we get back to intentionally raising our children. Back to that intentionality, that intentional that intentionality that brought up Malcolm, Martin, that intentionality, that purpose, Everett, all those things to get back to that, to understand that we have come a lot from out of a space that was just a pigeonhole. But now that we've blossomed into something greater, something fuller, we're getting away from each other. So it's time, but inside of getting away from each other, we go away from our village, that village. And so our children are out there and they caught up. So it's time to get back to intentionally raising our children, setting them up for the greatness that they should, the greatness that they are, because it's too much happening right now with the negative that's pushed on them. Secondly is to pay attention to what's going on around us politically. I feel like now politics is the new war room that is being utilized. It has always been, but I feel like in some way they've revised it now and they've learned how to use this mechanism in a way that negatively more so affects communities. So it's time for us to get back to that political um, political viewpoint. It's time for us to step back into those rooms, step back into those areas, assessing what's happening in education, finance, and in our communities. So, and the last but most important, that we understand that without God or without the Lord, without God, it's going to be hard to achieve. But not God in the way that is now, or I don't, there's no community happening amongst us in the churches and whatnot and in our spirituality. So it's time to get back to those connections, those private connections, those personal connections. And so where we start really seeing basically through blinders that we have to support each other. We have to build each other. We have to look towards our future now. Now is the time. So despite what's happening politically, socially, economically, we have to pay attention to those areas, political, social and economic, so that we get back to building us. We started in those areas, we've kind of stepped away because we have become busy. We've become busy trying to defend so many areas of us that we've now been taken away from the areas that we need to focus on, social, economic, and political development in us. So, and that's what I got, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Listeners, community will always be the key. We are better together. Always remember that. The whole little divide and conquer that's been going on far, far too long. Um, don't let them keep doing it. Together, we are better, you know, and always and forever. Homeschool your kids.